Anyway,
Feel like it's
it
starting.
looks like they might be showing
Oh,
some. Oh, they're showing that video. There's
Oh,
a YouTube video that they're showing.
yeah, yeah,
SpaceX just
yeah.
published this video before. Be
Alrighty
nice.
though. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Not
this stream has
technically the
just started.
presentation.
Yeah,
Like
they're just
filler.
showing stuff.
Let's see here. They're like trying to keep the masses placated before
There you go.
before Elon comes on the stage.
This is a pretty cool YouTube video. It's got a lot of cool footage
It
and
is
stuff.
very
The
cool.
soundtrack was pretty good, so like.
Yeah. Another real cool. Mary just actually. Oops.
See, I told you.
Michael, here we go.
It is a very cool soundtrack. Look at that, SM15. Oh, SM15. Am I really bright still? I don't know why. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. There we go. Let's hit forward. The exposure keeps going up. Look at that. All the legs pop out. Look how windy it is. Like that's landing sideways almost. Oh my god, the first three engines setting fire on the booster. Oh, look at that. First ever stack. Look at that. And it's going to fade into... There we go.
Hey. All right, welcome, welcome to Starbase. So it's been almost 2 years since our last update, and a lot has happened since then. By the way, I'm getting like a strange audio feedback. I don't know. Do I sound okay to you guys?
I'm hearing it as well.
So it's been 2 years since we had our first Mark I rocket, and a lot has happened since then. We're going to go through the progress, but I'm just incredibly proud of the SpaceX team and all the support that we received from Cameron County, from Brownsville, from South Padre. I know some of you in the audience, so thank you very much for your support. So.
Nice. It's 2:05 in the morning. This is well worth staying up for.
Before we jump into the details of what's happened over the past 2 years, I think it's worth just talking a bit about this. Like why are we doing this? You know, this. I mean, pretty epic. But what's the sort of
What's the goal?
the sort of deep meaning behind this? Like
Yeah.
why build a giant reusable rocket? Why make life multi-planetary? And I think this is just an incredibly important thing for the future of life itself. And this,
Hey,
the
Starman.
I call it the sort of the defensive reason or the life insurance reason. That's one part of it, which is that there's always some chance that something could go wrong on Earth. The dinosaurs are not around anymore, so you know there could be some calamity that where we do ourselves in, or there's a natural disaster. Now I'm naturally an optimist, so I think the probability of that is low, but it is not zero. And eventually the sun will expand. It might take a few 100 million years, so don't hold your breath. But eventually the sun will expand and destroy all life. So for those who really care about not just the humans, but all the life on Earth, it is very important, essential, that over the long term that we become a multi-planet species and ultimately even go beyond the solar system and bring life with us. And we are life's stewards, life's guardians. The creatures that we love can't build spaceships, but we can, and we can bring them with us. and I think that's pretty important, you know, for those that care about the environment and care about all the creatures on Earth. So that's like I would say like the defensive or the life insurance reason for life collectively. But there's also an inspiring reason, which is that life can't just be about solving problems. There have to be things that inspire you, that move your heart, that make you glad to be, when you wake up in the morning, you're excited about the future. And going out there and being a multi-planet species and being a spacefaring civilization and making science fiction, not fiction forever, I think that's one of those things. You know, I think that's just, that's what fires me up the most, is like, let's go out there and find out what this universe is all about. You know, are there other species out there? Maybe.
Maybe, we never know.
You know, hopefully it's. I mean, we want to go find out what the heck's going on. What is going on? I mean, where, you know, how do we get here? What's the meaning of life? 42. But what? Yeah, but what's the question? You know, if we go out there and we explore the galaxy, ultimately, then we can find out some of these questions, and it will just be very exciting to do that, and something we can all look forward to. And even, you know, whether somebody chooses to go or not, I think, you know, vicariously we can all go there, just like with Apollo, where, you know, only a handful of people went to the moon, but in a sense, we all went there. Humanity went there. And so even if somebody doesn't choose to go themselves, I think vicariously through others, they will go, they will understand, they will experience the universe. And I think that's incredibly fundamental to an exciting future, and that's why we're doing this. And yeah. Now, one of the rebuttals we'll sometimes hear is like, sure, but what about all the problems on Earth? And I completely agree that the vast majority of resources should be dedicated to solving problems on Earth. Absolutely. I'd say like more than 99% of our resources should be oriented towards solving problems on Earth. It's important to note that like NASA's annual budget is only 0.36% of the federal budget. And in fact, of the national GDP, it's less than 1/10 of a percentage point.
Wow.
So it's like we're only spending 0.1% of our resources on space. I think that's okay. You know, like we'll be fine. You know.
Yeah.
So just just make sure people don't think like, well, is he suggesting that we just spend everything on space? No, I'm suggesting like maybe 0.5% or something like that. We'll probably be okay. And I think, you know, given this establishing security for life itself and having an exciting future and inspiring the, you know, kids about the future, I think it's worth it, basically. Yeah. So, well, how do we do this? How do we make life multiplanetary? What's the first step? And the essential technology, the holy grail breakthrough that's needed, is a rapid and completely reusable rocket system.
Yep.
So this has never
Starship.
been accomplished before. And a lot of people, for the longest time, thought this was not possible. Now, with Falcon 9, we've been able to show that you can have reuse of a boost stage and reuse of a fairing. So with Falcon 9, we've demonstrated a lot of reuse of the boost stage and of the fairing. We have over 100 reflights of the fairing of the booster. And I'm not sure of the fairing number, but it's a lot. And that's a big step in the right direction. With Starship, we're aiming for full and rapid reusability.
Is that literally below me, Raptor 1 and Raptor 2?
No, we obviously need to accomplish that. That's not done yet. But but the success is one of the possible outcomes, which I always think is when embarking on an endeavor, success should be at least one of the possible outcomes. And for this design, that is the case. And we're aiming for rapid reusability, which is why the booster is going to take off and then fly back to the launch tower and aspirationally land on the arms.
Yeah. Because we've got to stop calling it
this sounds
catching
insane.
and more landing on
Or
the arms.
as Bill Riley would say, audacious.
Audacious.
But I if it does come in too fast and shear off the arms, then I guess it will be a farewell to arms. Sorry.
Good old Elon with the jokes.
Jokes, I have to warn you, they're only going to get worse. Here I'd really just like to congratulate the SpaceX team.
That's
and
mad.
Also thank NASA, the FAA, the Space Force, and everyone, and all of our customers that have helped us get to this point. I warn you, they're only going to get worse. Here I'd really just like to congratulate the SpaceX team.
The stream just went back.
And also thank NASA, the FAA, the Space Force.
Okay.
And everyone, and all of our customers that have helped us get to this point. It's insanely hard to get a rocket to orbit. Insanely difficult. I have huge respect for anyone who's gotten a rocket to orbit. It's so hard. And we've had 144 successful launches, 106 landings.
It's mad.
Yeah, I mean, actually, these days I have to look on the internet to say, how many landings have we had? I'll have to ask the internet. 83 flight proven launches. Although I have to say, I still have like launch PTSD every time the rocket takes off. I'm like, ah. I just see all the ways that it could fail. And then this year we're actually aiming to have around 50 launches, so it's about a launch per week on average. And so it's a hell of a year we got ahead of us.
What's it say? Mars?
And in terms of master
I can't see what that's.
like
Oh, master orbit. Okay.
This bar chart that we'll show here really illustrates how profound a rapidly reusable rocket,
Bloody hell.
especially a big one, is. What effect that has on total tonnage to orbit. So the total mass to orbit to date of Earth is around 15,000 tons, maybe 16,000 tons. The mass per Starship
In a whole year.
after a year, just 1 year of launching, if it launches 3 times a day, would be equal to all the mass to orbit of Earth to date.
In just 1 year.
That's just one Starship launching 3 times a day for a year.
That's mad.
If you have, 10 Starships-ish, then, and we'll have more than that. Our goal is to be making at least a one stack per month, and then ultimately potentially a ship every 3 days. There'll be more ships than there are boosters, because the booster actually, even though it's gigantic, will come back in about 6 minutes. Excitement guaranteed.
Wow, 6 minutes.
So it only takes about 2 minutes on ascent and then about 4 minutes to return. So you'll know soon.
Holy cow.
The ship has to complete at least 1 orbit around Earth, and sometimes maybe 3 orbits or more. And each orbit is 90 minutes. So, The ship is probably, reusable about every 6 to 8 hours. That's why we say sort of 3 times a day for the ship. And in theory, the booster is capable of being reused every hour. So the
That's
the
mad!
pumps are designed to fill the rocket in about half an hour. So this really is designed for
Reuse.
the rapid reuse.
Yeah.
So if you can do roughly a million tons to Earth orbit, that's comfortably over 100,000 tons to the surface of Mars. Maybe 150,000 tons, depending on how good the landing system is.
Drone.
So now you can only go to Mars every 2 years. And I think maybe roughly you need about 1 million tons on Mars to have a self-sustaining city. But the critical threshold.
So is he still want to
I think,
send
for
100?
Mars is to have a city that is self-sustaining. It's going to be incredibly difficult to make a self-sustaining city because if it's missing any ingredient at all, however minor that ingredient is, then if the ships from Earth stop coming for any reason, the city will die out.
Mm.
So the critical threshold to pass one of the most important great filters for any species is to have the other planet no longer dependent on
The
the
other
original
one.
planet.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what that tonnage is, but I suspect it is at least, if one tries to get the right order of magnitude, about 1 million tons.
Million
hopefully it's not more than
tons.
that. Starship is capable of doing that. It's capable of getting 1 million tons to the surface of Mars and creating a self-sustaining city.
That is mental. I
And
mean,
I think we should try to do that as soon as we can.
just look at that. That's
The
just the
window of
booster.
opportunity may be open for a long time, and I hope it is, but it may also be open for a short time. And this is the first point in the 4.5 billion year history of Earth. That it has been history of Earth. That
No.
it has been, let that sink in. Let that sink in. Let it in. Still knocking at the door. It's sentient. Still knocking at the door. I'm going to face it. Sentient sink. Come in.
Oh.
Face it. Come in. So.
Oh, we've lost audio. There we go. It's back.
To be frank, civilization is feeling a little fragile. Civilization is feeling a little fragile these days.
We have an echo.
And like I said, I'm an optimist. I'm going to protect the downside here, and I think we got to protect the downside here. And
Well, I'm just gonna open up another window. And we're gonna SpaceX.
and so it's going to take some work to make it easy. But one day we could make Mars really difficult and dangerous and tough.
Don't know what was going on there.
Mars is a fixer-upper of a planet, and
It's actually better quality as well.
It's going to take some work to make it easy to live.
4K.
Make it easy to live there. But one day we could make Mars a planet like Earth, and I think we should.
Yeah.
So, just some facts about Starship, and these numbers will evolve over time. The height of the ship is about 50 meters, 164 feet. The 9 meter, 30 foot diameter. Well, you can just see it basically.
So it's
about
30
1,200 tons
feet.
Down on the ship, and
I think that's bigger than my
about 18
house.
These
Bungalow.
numbers we'll probably add more propellant over time, increase thrust. Diameter will stay the same. It's huge pain to change diameter. So that'll tend to stay the same, but it'll probably get a little bit longer. and we're expecting payload capacity of 100 to 150 tons, depending on which orbit. So to a Starlink orbit, is roughly 100 tons. Over time, I think we can probably get the orbit for orbital refilling, the payload to an orbit for orbital refilling to about 200 tons.
Wow.
Which is going to be very important for getting to Mars. So for getting to Mars, you also need the orbital refilling. Just like you have aerial refueling, the rockets will need orbital refilling. It's actually mostly oxygen. There's 3.5 tons of oxygen for every 1 ton of fuel. So
Jeez.
that's why it's refilling, not refueling. Heat shield. So this is the world's largest heat shield, and this is we have to make
Starbricks.
this at our little factory in Florida near Cape Canaveral. We call it the bakery, and we're actually using a lot of techniques that are used for roofing tiles. So we need to have a heat shield that is capable of resisting extreme heat.
Really?
So it's not crazy expensive. And our heat shield team has done amazing work in creating the world's largest heat shield, and one that is reusable, but also robust and low cost. So it's not a crazy money heat shield. And yeah, need good heat shield technology for entering from orbit. Orbital refilling. We were going to do an animation of this, but it looked a bit wrong. It is a fluid transfer.
Oh, good old Elon.
So
Someone just whistled.
play a little Barry White. Okay. So that's one of the technologies that is necessary for getting to Mars. So the ship would get to orbit with its payload.
Oh.
And then in orbit we'd refill the tanks so it would have enough propellant to get to Mars. Mars is far.
Mars is very far.
So now this is essentially docking in orbit, and with Dragon docking with the space station, this is a technology that that SpaceX has become quite good at. We've done I think at this point a couple dozen dockings with the space station, and it's actually way harder to dock with the space station than to dock with yourself. So this is it is a thing we need to solve for Starship, but I'm confident that we can do this because we've done a lot of orbital docking already with the Dragon. But this is going to be an important thing to demonstrate. Won't be necessary in the near term for Starlink launches, but it will be necessary for Mars.
For Mars.
So let's see, super heavy booster. So it was 70 meters, but then there was an extra half barrel section that the team deleted, and totally accidentally it's 69 meters. It's also booster 4 and ship 20. I mean, this is a pure coincidence. Those numbers won't leave me alone. I hope it's good luck.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh.
yeah, so
is that confirmation they're still gonna fly?
The capacity is like around 3,400 tons. I think this, like so these, it'll probably it will increase over time. Probably get to 36, maybe 3,800 tons. Thrust is around 7,600 tons. That'll probably increase too over time. Just to put this into perspective, though, the Saturn V was 7.5 million pounds of thrust, and Starship is 17. So it's more than twice the thrust of a Saturn V.
It's mad.
That's the largest rocket ever to get to orbit. It's worth noting Super Heavy is the largest flying object of any kind, or will be. It's yeah.
Really, there's nothing bigger than that.
You can see it right there. That booster has 29 engines. The next booster, we actually increased the engine count to 33. We kind of bounced around on engine count. but because I think at one point we had like 37 engines, and they went to 29. We finally settled on 33 engines, which is about actually the most number of engines you can actually fit under that booster without like expanding the diameter. Yeah, and then this tower. This tower from design to construction was 13 months. So it's quite a.
Is that it? 13 months.
It's really worth emphasizing that the whole launch system, which is basically stage 0, is.
Oh, look at the time lapse from last night.
Complex and difficult as either the booster or the ship.
And it just swings
So,
over.
I really want to emphasize that this is a very difficult thing that requires a lot of hardcore engineering.
Look at that
And,
QD arm
it's
comes
really,
across.
Like I said, the tower and the launch system, which I call stage 0.
And then just
is
latches
as important
across.
as stage 1 and stage 2.
Done. And then the boot
I mean, this
comes
is really
down,
some wild stuff here.
and then the
fact,
QD port just goes in.
Hard to believe it's real, except,
It is.
right there.
It's something
So-
we dreamed of a year ago.
Yeah. Then Raptor development. Raptor 1 was 185 tons of thrust. Raptor 2 is 230 tons of thrust, and I think over time we can get that to probably 250 tons. So
That's
and it's
mad.
also, significantly simplified. So you can see the difference between V1 and V2. The V2 is V1 looks like kind of like a Christmas tree spaghetti pile.
Yep.
A lot of fiddly bits, and V2 is greatly simplified while also increasing thrust at the same time. So it actually
Oh, man. Where those are
Raptor
blocked.
2 costs about
There it
half
is.
as much as Raptor
Literally,
1,
right there.
much more thrust, and I think just generally being a much easier engine to build and a more robust engine. So very excited about Raptor.
I'm trying to find
It's
Jessica.
only
Where
gonna
is
get better
she?
from here.
Jeez, that scared the hell out of me. Look at those shop
Yeah.
diamonds. Oh my god. That's mad.
So so Raptor 2 is pretty sick. And we've actually, the peak thrust that we've operated Raptor to at this point is 247 tons. And so I'm confident that with some improvements we can get to at 250
250,
tons
yeah.
operating point. And continue to simplify and sort of robustify the engine. So it's really it's a spectacular piece of engineering. It's extremely difficult to make and succeed. Engine has been mind-bogglingly difficult, but it is.
It's
definitely
rocket
essential
science. What do you
to-
expect?
I mean, it is essential, obviously, to making Starship work. It'll be the first full flow stage combustion engine to get to orbit. Yeah, kind of need that ISP and trust to wait. So why Starbase? A lot of people like say why Starbase? Why here? And we kind of needed a confluence of factors. The getting to orbit, you want to launch eastward so that you have help from Earth's rotation.
Towards me,
So
towards the
closer you
UK.
are to equator, the more of a sort of a boost from Earth rotation that you get. So you want to be as south as possible and launch eastward. And then, it's always possible that something goes wrong.
God.
And so you want to have a good clear area. You want several miles around the launch site to be unpopulated or at least clearable. And that doesn't actually leave a lot of options. It's basically here and Cape Canaveral, or
Yep.
Cape Kennedy. is where are the two
I
possibilities.
was going to say it's Cape
And then because we
Kennedy
had
now.
a lot of launches going out of the Cape, we didn't want to disrupt the Cape activity, the operational launches, with sort of the advanced R&D of Starship. So it was important to decouple
Oh, look at
the
that.
operational launches from the R&D launches, and that's why we're at this location. And once again, I'd just like to thank Cameron County and the Brownsville South Padre and the remaining residents of Boca Chica Village. Where I live, by the way, it's my primary residence is that little village over there. So, and it's been great. It's been great being here, and yeah, like super appreciate the support of the community. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. So I think we've got a video to show what we hope will happen with launch.
Oh, here we go. Is this an actual...
Oh wait, sorry. We have some upcoming Starship missions.
Oh.
The flight is really just the beginning. So we're gonna have
Dear Moon.
a number of Starlink missions that
Ooh.
will launch Starlink satellite version 2. But even more exciting than that is the NASA human spaceflight.
Ooh.
We're incredibly honored to that NASA has selected Starship to take astronauts back to the moon for the first time in half a century, which is kind of mind-blowing. So,
Yeah.
I'd just like to say, like, SpaceX is just deeply honored and appreciative that NASA would choose us for this incredibly important mission, and we'll get it done. And then there's also the Dear Moon mission, which is
Yep, Dear Moon.
going to take artists around the moon, and that's Saku Miyazawa, and he's
Oh, he actually said the name. I can never say his name. Never.
Artists and do a loop around the moon, which will be very exciting. And there's going to be some future announcements that I think people will be pretty fired up about. So,
I think that might be Jessica down there with the
super
phone.
exciting future ahead with this. There'll probably be a few bumps in the road, but we want to iron those out with satellite missions and test missions, and
Yeah, that's why you've got them.
and then have something that's extremely reliable for human spaceflight. So,
Yeah, that is literally Jessica. Oh, here we go. And this is a new render. Oh, I think this is actually proper shots. Oh, wow. A Cybertruck going down there. Oh, Hopper's still there. Oh, wow. That is gorgeous. Three in the middle. Yeah. So a lot of people have been That's mad. Dude, passing through Max Q. Miko stage separation. boost back burn. Oh man. Imagine seeing this. Like, we are so close to this. Landing burn. So I think they said they're going to light 3 engines. And then basically the clamp's going to come down on top of it. That's the boost back. That's it. That's the booster done. Dude, that's going to be so sick. I've literally got goosebumps. And there you go. So it's the orbital refilling. So they have put the... Literally, my background is like a copy of that. So there's my background. Artist's sort of version of what that glass dome's gonna look like. Oh, mate. I'm literally getting goosebumps everywhere. Yeah, it's gonna boost off to Mars. Go on. Look at it. Mate, this is crazy. Wembley. Mate, I'm going to be watching that over and over and over again. It's right there. It's right there.
Let's make this real.
Yes, it is real.
Any questions?
No, he's being serious.
Let's make this real. Cool. Fire away. Anyone? I can't see you, so you probably just have to yell it out or something. Yes, there's 6 Raptors on Starship. Currently 3 with the vacuum nozzle, 3 sea level. Sorry?
Check.
And I think if I would say, like, we'll probably end up adding another 3 vacuum engines to kind of, fill in the gaps and stretch the ship. I think is going to make a lot of sense. You'll have to yell, unfortunately. So we are building a launch site, a Starship launch tower at 39A at Cape Kennedy.
Yeah.
And we are also building a Starship production facility at the Cape. So we'll have production facility and launch site here, and a production facility and launch site at the Cape.
So 2 separate places.
It's important to have redundancy. So.
It's Irene Fox with Aviation Week over here.
I've got lights in my eyes, so unfortunately I can't see.
Okay, well,
I'm blinded. So I can hear where the speaker is coming from.
Okay.
But,
you should. I believe you're expecting to hear in a couple weeks about the
FAA
finding of no significant impact from the FAA. Have you gotten any indications if that's going to come through, and what is your time frame for the orbital flight test? Thanks.
well, we don't have a ton of insight into where things stand with the FAA. We have gotten sort of a rough indication that there may be an approval in March. That's what we know.
Yeah.
Hi, Elon. Marcus Harvey. Can you talk about the point-to-point capability? Is there a possibility between here and Cape Canaveral?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess technically yes. So, I mean, depending on how good things get with Starship, there are some scenarios where it might actually be the lowest cost means of transporting cargo long distances. So the interesting thing is that the capital efficiency of a rocket is much better than the capital efficiency of a plane for long distance flights. So now this would really be more for if you're going like, I don't know, a quarter or a third or halfway around the world, where if you went from, I don't know, say here to Singapore or something, like that's a long flight. So, I mean, I don't know how long that is. I'm not sure you can even go there nonstop, but it's probably like 20 hours plus. And but in a rocket, it would be less than an hour, so like 45 minutes or thereabouts. So that means you'd be able to use the rocket 20 times more often than an aircraft.
A single plane,
so
yeah.
It's 20 times the capital efficiency. So provided the propellant cost is competitive with aircraft, and bear in mind, like I was saying, like there's 3.5 tons of liquid oxygen for every 1 ton of fuel. And liquid oxygen is basically just the cost of electricity, because it's in the air basically. So there is a scenario where it's economically compelling to do long distance cargo and people transport.
Could you imagine that? Just like casually going down to
really cool.
your local launch pad, getting on the Starship, and just halfway around the world in an hour.
A lot of Starships operating. Basically, nothing's faster than an ICBM.
We got a question right here, Elon, right in the middle, right here, right, hands up in the.
I mean, I literally have lights in my eyes, and it's pitch dark in front of me.
It's fine. Hi, Elon. Michael Sheets with CNBC. You opened this presentation by addressing a little bit of the criticism that's been aimed at space travel being seen as maybe a pet project or not really valuable to folks who have problems here on Earth. I was wondering if you could get a little more into the specifics on comparing not just the U.S. government spending that's happening on space travel versus other things, but maybe in terms of SpaceX itself, how you and private investment on a dollar value compares to the taxpayer-funded projects or contracts that SpaceX has won over the years.
Oh.
But I think objectively the cost efficiency of SpaceX is the best in history, I think, for any rocket development.
Oh, gotcha.
And we are talking about a rocket that's more than twice the mass and thrust of a Saturn V, and also designed to be fully reusable. So obviously, also much better from an environmental standpoint than a fully reusable rocket. For a development cost that is, I don't know, between 5 and 10% of Saturn V. So
wow,
that's pretty good.
That's mad.
Because we need to make it work. So it's not worked yet, but it will work. Might be a few bumps along the road, but it'll work. I feel at this point highly confident that it will get to orbit this year. We're making a lot of rockets, making a lot of engines. We're close to achieving a Raptor 2 every day production rate. So 7.
One Raptor every day,
which is tough for a complex engine. I think by the end of this year we'll be able to produce ship and a booster per month.
Every month. That's mad.
At least an order of magnitude, maybe 2 orders of magnitude more efficient than anything in the past.
Yeah. He's lost it.
Hey, Elon, this is the Supercluster. Just wondering,
what does SpaceX's plan and timeline look like if the FAA ultimately decides to do a deeper environmental review of Starbase? And then one other thing, you might be able to give us an updated figure on what it costs to Starship and what it would cost a customer to buy it on one. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I am optimistic that we will get approval. Like, I think objectively, I think this is not something that will be harmful to the environment. We've obviously flown the ship several times and done multiple landings and takeoff landings. We've fired the engines a lot.
Crashes.
I think the reality is that it would not have a significant impact. Now, of course, that doesn't mean things don't get delayed from a regulatory standpoint. We are in a litigious society, and so there's always sort of lawsuits from someone. Lawsuit city. Now we do have the offer of the Cape, and we actually applied for environmental approval for launch from the Cape a few years ago and received it. So we actually are approved from an environmental standpoint to launch from 39A.
Oh wow! So they're already approved.
The scenario is that we would, I don't know, be delayed for 6 to 8 months to build up the Cape launch tower and launch from there. From a cost standpoint,
how much for one?
The costs will improve significantly over time. So, because it'll take us a moment to achieve full reusability and full rapid reusability, we'll probably lose a few vehicles along the way.
Yeah.
With Falcon 9, I think it took us 14 or 15 attempts to successfully land the first booster.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll take us that many with Starship because we have that experience. But it's certainly not a sure thing that it'll work the first time.
I want to know how much just one costs.
From a cost standpoint, I mean, it's a 100-ton capability to orbit. On a marginal cost to launch basis, that doesn't count fixed costs, which obviously have to be covered.
100 million.
Maybe as little as a few $1 million per flight. Maybe even as low as $1 million per flight. So this is crazy. These are
I need to win the lottery. Even if it's $1 million, stick it in the bank.
Now, we do have to cover fixed costs. So depending on what our launch rate is, we have to divide the fixed cost by the number of launches. So the more launches that happen, the lower the total cost.
The cost goes, yeah.
The fully considered cost per flight would be. But I'm highly confident it would be less than $10 million.
Mate, 10 mil.
And over, if you say like fast forward like 2 or 3 years from now, I think it's highly likely to be everything included less than $10 million a flight for 100-ton to orbit capability.
Oh man.
100 tons to a useful orbit, not to a low orbit. To a low orbit. So this is ridiculously good by.
Yeah, by now sort of standards.
Because, you think of like if this was if aircraft were not reusable, how much would an air ticket cost? I mean, it's like for I don't know what.
They're expensive.
The 787 or 777 goes for these days. I don't know, a few $100 million. If you had to spend $200 million every flight, it would be very expensive to fly somewhere, and you'd need 2 of them for another one for the return trip. So, it would obviously be absurd. So if you imagine if we were in a world where aircraft were expendable, and then someone came along with a reusable aircraft, it would be an absolutely profound game changer.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen for life to become multiplanetary, and that's what this design, I'm confident, is capable of that. It's just a question of how long it will take to refine that and have it really dialed.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, this is Andrea Leinfelder of the Houston Chronicle. I wanted to know, when and how do you plan to test Starship refueling in space? And also, aside from NASA, Dear Moon, and Starlink, can you elaborate on the potential customer base for Starship? Thank you.
Ooh.
I apologize. Actually, I zoned out for a second. I was just thinking about. Could you say that question again?
Good on you.
Sorry. When and
Maybe that's some mic issues.
okay. When and how do you plan to test Starship refueling in space? And aside from NASA, Dear Moon, and Starlink, can you elaborate on potential customers for Starship? Thank you.
I think orbital refilling, and I want to emphasize it is refilling, not refueling, because it's 3.5 times as much oxygen than fuel. So mostly optimistically, towards the end of next year,
Yeah.
I think I'd be surprised if it's longer than 2 years for doing the refilling.
It really depends on like how many they lose.
Additional customers that will want to use Starship. I don't want to steal their thunder. They're going to make their announcement, and
Oh.
so. But I think this will get a lot of use, a lot of attention. It's like I said, you know, once we make this work, it's an utterly profound breakthrough in access to orbit.
Yeah.
And when you have an utterly profound breakthrough, the use cases will be hard to imagine. I mean, you know, when aircraft first came along, aircraft were viewed as toys, like they were like a novelty, not a means of transport. They were like, oh look, we can fly like a bird briefly and dangerously for a few minutes. You know, nobody at the time, or at least I think very few people at the time, thought that there would be a global aircraft industry with airports throughout the world carrying people to every part of Earth in ridiculously short periods of time. You know, when the Wright brothers first took off, I mean, most people were just riding horses. So you're like, oh, you know, like riding a horse, see this crazy device, looks like witchcraft.
Burn it.
And they would not have imagined that there would be aircraft flying, you know, tens of thousands of aircraft flying to every corner of the world. So I think we may, this really could be an extremely profound situation, and we really can't even imagine all the use cases at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Elon. This is Steve Clark with the Brownsville Herald. Thank you for the presentation. So, if the FAA does come back and say we need an EIS, does Starbase bounce back from that at some point?
Yeah, I mean, it would obviously set us back for quite some time, because an EIS takes a lot longer than an EA.
I don't know what that is. I'm guessing it's a deeper.
Okay, and long term, what do you envision for Starbase? Like a spaceport with flights coming and going, and Starship manufacturing, or what is the future role of Starbase?
The future role of Starbase, I think, it's well suited to be kind of like our advanced R&D location. So it's like where we would try out new designs and new versions of the rocket, and
basically a
I
test
think
facility.
Kennedy would be our sort of main operational launch site, and then I don't know. Over time, I think we'll have floating spaceports, like ocean spaceports. We've got these two converted oil rigs that are
Famous and Deimos.
Launch sites, and they can be moved around the world. So, you know, that I think there could be quite a few of those. I think about like, if I think about like what would really work for long distance travel, because the rocket is quite loud, you want to be, I don't know, 20 miles away from a major city or 30 miles away from a major city, so you don't, you're not disturbing people too much. So I think probably most of the launch sites long term will be kind of ocean or seas spaceports. So like maybe located like 20 miles, 30 miles offshore, and this would allow Starship to connect any cities that are on the ocean or on the sea, and have a high flight rate, but without disturbing people too much. I think people are willing to have something that's loud occasionally, but if you want to have it frequently, then it probably needs to be offshore.
Hello, Elon. I'm Cam Gerlach with the SpaceX Reddit community. So you've talked a lot about how Raptor 2 is crucially important for Starship development and for the future of Starship. So I'm curious, what general improvements have you made with Raptor 2 to ensure it's not only more efficient and more powerful, but also much easier to produce and less expensive as well and faster? And how do you plan to continue to iterate further on the design in the future?
Oh, that's quite a good question, actually.
Raptor 2 is an almost complete redesign relative to Raptor 1. So basically everything from the turbomachinery to the chamber, nozzle, the electronics, basically everything's been redesigned. You can see the difference over there, the Raptor 1 versus Raptor 2. A lot of the changes were deleting things. We deleted a lot, consolidated a lot.
Almost like it's simplifying it.
Rotating machinery, especially the inducers of the turbo pumps, are a lot more robust. We converted a bunch of flanges to welds, and we're actually over time will convert even more flanges to welds. I hate flanges. Especially if you've got high pressure and cryogenic fluid or super hot gas. Flanges and seals are a nightmare. And so, we've got parts of that engine that are, sort of 700-800 bar, sort of 11,000-12,000 psi, which is nutty.
That is mad.
And so just going to welded joints instead of flanges is pretty helpful. The pre-burner controllers have been consolidated into a sort of unified box as opposed to being kind of like all over the engine. So, and we're getting close to the point where I think Raptor will not need shrouds. So shrouds are a huge pain in the ass, like basically putting a shroud around the engine, especially for the gimbaling engines, where it's got to kind of have like a sort of
skirt
eyeball seal, like rotating in a circle with a hot gas seal. With a bit more deletion and integration, I think the engine will be sort of flame-proof, more or less, and we could get rid of the shrouds, which would be a big mass savings. Yeah. So a lot more to go on. We're also operating at a higher chamber pressure. I think we could probably operate. I think over time we can operate it at 330 bar sustain in the main chamber.
That's mad.
The pre-burner pressures be too high by essentially not by losing less pressure. There's like a whole pressure ladder going from the turbo pumps and pre-burners to the main chamber, and by getting rid of a bunch of the choke points, we can have less pressure loss, and so the pumps can effectively produce more pressure in the main chamber due to less loss in the secondary systems. Do you have any? Have specific questions or?
Sorry, Chris Gephardt with NASA Spaceflight.
Hey!
Talk a little bit about the abort modes that are available for ship if there were ever to be a problem during the climb to orbit. What would be available to the crew in that regard? And also on that same level, the life support systems for ship. Where do those stand, and what are the challenges that you're finding with just the sheer volume in Starship for that? Thank you.
So, Starship will not have an independent abort system, but I think something that would make sense is to have the thruster weight of the ship be enough that it could do it could take off from
top of the booster.
The booster, even if the booster has a failure at the pad level. So you get the thruster weight of the ship at sea level above 1, then even if there is something goes wrong with the booster, the ship can essentially fly away from the booster. And so that's something that I think would be important for carrying people and also for high value cargo to have the ship have thruster weight greater than 1 even at sea level. And then there's like I said, that would be like the 9-engine version, and then even if you lost 1 engine, I think you should still be able to do an abort. So I think for crewed missions, we would essentially maybe detank the ship to some degree so that you'd have kind of a launch abort capability with the ship, even if you lost an engine. That'd be my recommendation. From a life support standpoint, we would have a sort of a renewable, like for long, we could scale up the life support system in Dragon. That would certainly be an option, and that would work for missions that are, say, a week or 2 weeks. That would be fine. For missions to Mars, you'd want a life support system that is renewable. So it's essentially recycling everything in a closed loop system with close to zero lost mass. So that would be a more advanced system. You'd have to convert the CO2 back into O2 and kind of recycle, poop and urine and stuff. So that's a harder problem, but it's not an immediate problem. We can certainly scale up Dragon for any kind of mission.
Short-term ones.
A few weeks long.
Hi, Elon. Eric Berger with Ars Technica. Thanks for taking some questions. I'm wondering if you do get that approval from the FAA in March. I know that there's really no way of knowing, but could you talk a little bit about the hardware readiness, sort of where you are technically? The launch tower is pretty incredible. But sort of the rocket, the ground system, software, like if you were to get some kind of approval from the FAA in March, would you be looking at, how quickly could the hardware be ready to go?
Yeah, I think we're close to having the hardware ready to go. So right now, I think we're tracking to have the regulatory approval and hardware readiness around the same time.
The end of this month.
Yeah. Hard to say. Hopefully, basically a couple months for both. Yeah.
Hi, Seth Kukowski with SpacerSport.com. You mentioned launching from the sea. Could you give us an update on the current status of using Phobos and Deimos for Starship operations?
Phobos and Deimos.
Yeah, so Phobos and Deimos thus far have been a relatively low priority. We needed to make the launch site here work. This has been quite a difficult endeavor. So we deprioritized the Phobos and Deimos, and just last month we started to. We're going to take one of them and build at least a catch tower on it. So So, and ultimately we will, ultimately meaning like I don't know, later this year, build a full launch capability on one of the platforms. So I think hopefully by the end of this year we will have a launch capability at Cape Kennedy at 39A and on one of the ocean platforms as well.
That's mad.
Hi, Elon. This is Adam Cardona with CBS4 and NBC23 here in the Rio Grande Valley. This is more of a community-based question. This past week, several VISD students, community leaders, and community members got together to ask you a question and to show their gratitude. Not sure if you got that message yet, but they were saying thank you, Elon, and they wanted to know if you would be able to attend their Childhood Days festivities here in Brownsville. So, on behalf of them, will you be attending Childhood Days?
It sounds like fun. So, like, when is it?
I believe it starts on the 19th through the 25th. So you have several days to attend Sombrero Festival, Childhood Days Parade.
Oh, that'd be
enjoy some
sick.
great food. Will we see you there?
I will be there.
All right.
Hey! Elon. Mate, he just made a public.
It's gonna be hard to follow up.
Hey, Tim.
The everyday astronaut here. Okay, so a little bit more Raptor 2 talk again. Where are you at as far as production? How many do you have? How are they handling, testing? Are they more cantankerous, less cantankerous? Just give us a little more rundown, like on where you're actually at. Is that a bottleneck for the next booster as well? We assume the next booster is going to require, Raptor 2. So, kind of where are you at with the production and the testing so far?
Well, right now, of any technical problem, I'm spending the most time personally on Raptor 2. Really, they're like the two things that occupy the most number of mental cycles are Raptor 2 and Tesla Full Self-Driving. The only remaining issue that we're aware of is melting the chamber. So that thing really wants to melt. It's got like on the order of a gigawatt of heat. So
jeez,
it's pretty hot. Like a gigawatt's like what a nuclear power plant produces. So it's really desperately trying to melt at any point in time. We've got we're flowing an immense amount of cryogenic fuel to cool the chamber in the channels. We have head end film cooling. We've got throat film cooling, and we're just trying to get the exact sort of balance between head end film cooling and throat film cooling to not melt the chamber. I think we're pretty close. We have a couple engines in the stand that have I think 700 or 800 seconds of operation and several start cycles. So it's looking positive, but that's the remaining issue is melting the chamber. But in the meantime, we're scaling up all production to get to one a day or better. So apart from melted chambers, we're doing well. We've got a lot of pumps, a lot of electronics, a lot of pre-runner controllers. Just not melting the chamber is very difficult. Is kind of the last remaining challenge. But I think we're very close to solving it. And then the production system has a lot of momentum, like I said. We're really, like next week we'll probably make at least 5 or 6 Raptor 2s.
Wow.
For example.
That's mad.
And I think we'll be at a 7 a week or better by next month. So these are crazy numbers for rocket engines, by the way. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. Robert Perlman with Space.com and Collect Space. You mentioned the NASA contract for the human landing system. At one point, do you envision splintering off development of Starship for HLS, or how are you going to balance the timelines of rapid reusability versus NASA's own schedule of when they're ready to go to the moon?
I don't think there's really a conflict there. We're going to be making a lot of ships, a lot of boosters, obviously a lot of engines. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like with a booster with 33 engines and a ship with 9 engines is 42. There we go, gang. And that also total coincidence. So, you know, adding legs to land on the moon, we do not think is like that can be done pretty quickly.
Oh really? Oh really? Can it?
I don't really see any conflict between
The Falcon 9 legs just whoosh, pull out of it. It'd be mental. I think I'm going to have one more question and then I'm going to bed because it's almost 3:30 in the morning and I really need to go to bed.
Hi, Lauren Grush with The Verge. I'm wondering if you can clarify the number of launches that you plan to conduct in order to do these refillings. I know a lot of numbers have been thrown around, so I'm wondering if you have landed on a final number. And how quickly do you plan to launch those
the Blue Origin
missions back to back to refuel the vehicle to get to the moon?
This is the Blue Origin, false documents.
Yeah, so the missions would happen pretty fast for refilling the vehicle to minimize boil off of the cryogenic propellants. Now for the vehicle going to the moon, we have some installation to minimize boil off. But we'd probably be launching, I don't know, probably every few hours, aspirationally. So,
Elon, Kevin Haymeyer from Space
One more.
on YouTube and Rumble.
Hey! Another guy.
My viewers are really hungry to know anything about the interior design for crewed Starship.
Finally.
You have HLS, you have Deer Moon, and last we heard, maybe a year or two ago, you were looking to hire Tesla employees to design the interior for Starship. How's that going?
Well, we aren't focusing a lot on the interior quite yet. That will be important down the road, but our focus right now is getting to orbit and proving out
Proving the systems. Yeah.
Of the ship. It's fundamentally very difficult to build a fully reusable rocket given the strength of Earth's gravity and the density of our atmosphere. Like there's no, you can't have a lot of mass margin. So our focus is solving that rapid reusability. Like I said, we'll have a high production rate, so we're not dependent on we're not dependent on full reusability, but really that's the breakthrough that's fundamentally important to change the course of human civilization.
They're trying to get to full reusability. Oh, last question. Here we go.
Evening, Bob Duncan, local resident.
Oh.
Are we cutting out? Is that better? Hi, evening. My name is Bob Duncan. I'm a local resident here in the area. And first off, thank you for a very cool evening. So this has been a lot of fun for us. As a local resident, it's been exciting to watch the amazing progress that SpaceX has made here in Boca Chica. And I was just curious, we're standing on the southern tip of the state of Texas. We're a few hundred yards from your residence. Could you just speak to what, if anything, has been appealing or advantageous about operating in the state of Texas versus other parts of the country? Thank you.
Well, I think you know well, I mean, we've had a lot of support from the community, and you know, something that just happens over time with societies is that kind of rules and regulations build up, and they build up, you know, more in some places than others, and they didn't, you know, I think Texas has the right amount of rules and regulations.
Screw California.
So,
Doing the old cowboy
thank you all
buckle
for coming.
thing.
I hope you've enjoyed the evening, and I think we might be able to get you closer to the rocket if you'd like.
Oh man.
And
Oh,
we'll get you
man.
as close as possible while still being safe. Yeah, feel free to take pictures, have a good time, and let's go like hell to have an exciting future. Thank you.
That was awesome. There we go. Oh, look at it! Look at that. That's it. Why does that sound like GTA? That almost sounded like the GTA music. That sounds very similar. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm Lee. Fly safe, land safer.